All right. This next video is from SpaceTomato, though, and it's titled Star Citizen 319. What new features are coming next? I mean, my eyes, like, we've played 318 in the PT for so long. I'm really excited for it to go live for a number of reasons. My eyes are very much set on 319. A lot of you guys may know that an ISC is coming out this week about mining in 319 and how they're going to improve it. From what I understand, greatly, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing what changes they make to that. But let's see what SpaceTomato has on 319 and what features he thinks are coming
With
next.
319 being to 318 what 316 was to 315,
Yep.
the upcoming Star Citizen Alpha 319 update should end up being much more stable as the company has more time to tune the
When did he record this? Because 318 is just getting less stable as time goes on.
underlying stability of the 3.18 code. But at the same time, we likely won't be seeing any monumental new features. Sorry about all the numbers, but that's not to say there aren't some useful new features coming to the update in May. This is a first look at Alpha 319 and the features that are likely to be included. More will probably be added to the outlook leading up to the update, and nothing will be guaranteed until likely April, but here's the current plan. Thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. One of the more widely expected additions to Star Citizen in the 319 update is the updated city of Lorville.
Yeah.
This city was the first added to the game, if you don't count the small Levski. While it is plenty big and even saw minimal improvements throughout the years, as the city building tools have improved, it has definitely fallen behind the standards of other areas in the game like New Babbage and Orison. This update's pretty important because cities currently don't provide much reason to visit. But the plan is that more missions, unique NPCs, specific resources, and other activities are going to be reasons to spend large times visiting and living in these spaces, and they're going to need to expand to accommodate. There are some areas here and there in Lorville that you can explore, but ultimately it's always felt less interactive, and assets appear outdated at this point. That being said, the main focus of this change to Lorville is the skyline. In fact, there's a good chance, based on how this update has been discussed, that the skyline is the only way the city will change in 319. This would include updated transit systems and train paths, more exploration opportunities above, around, and in the city when flying, a much larger footprint than before, landing pads scattered around buildings, and those same buildings being updated for future features and missions being used inside of the city. This all looks great and will make Lorville likely a better performing and more pleasing city to visit, but this change may end up falling short of making any true impactful difference right now. It is still early in the preview process with Alpha 319 coming in May, but it seems the actual city area you walk around in won't be seeing a major update just yet. Now, I could be wrong about this, but I see a couple reasons that it could be the case. One major reason is that the in-game branding team has been working on the new player experience in Area 18, and may have had to split their time between Lorville and ArcCorp if they decided to try and update both cities at once. That will make more sense when we talk about the new player experience later. But another reason could be that the internal city expansion will be highly dependent on building interiors, and thus it is more efficient to wait until that feature is ready to make the changeover. Considering the scale of building interiors.
But if you tie into the fact that, like, Clovis is getting a new mission, maybe they're going to do something there.
Which is much bigger than I thought it would be.
Did he put a
it makes
date on
sense
when
that any
this is
major
coming?
city expansion from now on would
Tomato.
include them. No matter what the reason might be, though, as of right now, expectations for the Lorville update should only consist of what's written on the feature itself. We'll just have to keep an eye out for any more possible changes in the coming months. One of the more significant additions to 319 that we only recently learned existed in the monthly reports are salvage missions. As always, I'll say if you are interested in knowing what's coming in Star Citizen, the monthly reports telegraph the additions every time.
Yes.
So these missions are significant because up until now, ever since cargo was possible pre-3.0 and mining was added in 2018, we haven't seen any missions catering to the industrial players. Courier missions are one thing, but even mining saw no official missions for 5 years. While salvage is already...
Courier missions are one thing. One incredibly boring thing. Like, I don't see anybody doing the courier missions need so much more love. And it sounded like with the cargo refactor, they were talking about giving them more love, and then radio silence.
Well known about, it's been confirmed as of the last Star Citizen Live that some big changes and possibly the missions will also be coming to mining in 3.19. So we already know more is coming than just what's listed here.
They're a good intro for new players, sure.
That being said, it's not just the speed that these missions are coming in that make them exciting. It feels like Star Citizen is genuinely starting to focus on the progression and feeling of playing the game with things like this. But I'll get to that later. Here's how these missions will work. When it comes to industrial missions, there will be 3 different flavors. Lawful contracts will see you purchasing a certified claim from a salvage company to strip the hull of all you can and keep the proceeds for yourself. Unlawful missions require you to take a more shady wreck that you have no claim to and must get as much done on as you can before security or the real owner shows up. And then there's the lawless mission. An open invitation on the virtual job board that is your Mobiglass to all salvagers in the area to come take a pic if they're interested. This will likely be a very large wreck of multiple ships, but opens up the door for teamwork, backstabbing, and all other sandbox possibilities. It's
JT salvage mission, you know? It's security post Korea, but salvage. And the mining will have similar aspects to that. One thing that they talked about in Star Citizen Live is that there might be more than just these missions.
Missions are open to all, and they're lawless. They will encourage creative multiplayer gameplay without forcing it. And this has consistently led to the best experience in the game. Look at Xenothreat and how it encouraged us to use tractor beams, Jumptown, and the way it's created emergent PvP experiences. And the new Korea Station update, which feels like the first actual dynamic event. Now we might see the same idea applied to an industrial setting. Now, there's still more to learn about these missions, and they may not end up being as fun as I think they will be. But they're going to be a great way for players unfamiliar with the gameplay to break into it. And that might be the most important part of these missions. They start to bring progression in the game into focus. Rather than jumping into Star Citizen and struggling to come up with things to do, these missions act as a tutorial for each style of sandbox gameplay. A newcomer can easily understand the steps, equipment, ships, and time that might be needed for a style of gameplay they want to try. Then after they've run the missions a few times, they'll be ready to head out into the verse and do it in a sandbox environment untethered from rules and objectives. And with these missions currently being made for racing, bounty hunting, investigations, mining, combat, cargo hauling, and piracy, Star Citizen progression may start making a lot more sense soon.
That was cool. New player experience, yeah. This is the one we know the least about.
While it may be obvious how missions could help newcomers feel more open to the sandbox environment, the actual new player experience being packaged for Area 18 in Alpha 3.19 might be a bit more abstract. I think everyone can agree the experience in the game for newcomers has been atrocious, and even last year CIG spent some time explaining that they feel the same and will be making some changes to improve it. And while we still haven't actively seen what this feature will include, I can tell you from what they've said.
Todd, we're working on it.
The main focus of this will be to improve the first 30-minute experience that somebody has in Star Citizen. Your normal citizen may say, well, that basically covers the trip to the spaceport. But
that's exactly what they look like. That's what everyone on Reddit looks like to me.
To the spaceport. But in reality, they want to guide the player's hand in waking up, exiting the hab, finding transportation, shopping, finding your ship, flying to the local space station, and experiencing ship and FPS combat. It'll cover quite a bit of the basic experience, but we don't know how it will be done. They could just be hints, but are these hints linked to AR overlays? Will they be voiced? Is there a gamification there to make them better than the hints we already have? We don't know just yet. What we do know is that ultimately this system will be linked to a new HUD and the new player interaction experience.
The teams are working towards FPS HUD that is being built for S42 so that it's got basically contextual hints that are up all the time and you're in different states. So it's basically player interaction experience that we're working on and we've spec'd out, for S42 as well as for the persistent universe. So we're waiting on them to do the first pass on the HUD and the first pass on the system, and then from there that trickles down to us. We need to reskin it and do it.
Now, does this mean these new systems have reached the PU since this was mentioned back in August of 2022?
Nope.
I have no idea. But we do know the in-game branding team has finished their work in ARCorp. We know the interaction system is working in some capacity as of CitizenCon last year. And we know they are feeling good about the new player experience for Alpha 3.19. Could we see the new player interaction system or FPS scanning added to the game in 3.19? Since this update will still be running on 3.18 codebase, it seems extremely unlikely to me, but the messaging definitely has me curious, and we should find out more in the next 2 months.
Yeah. I will be very surprised if there's not an ISC about this specifically. I think there'll be missions that maybe you have to go through.
The final currently known addition in Star Citizen Alpha 3.19 is a new PvP-focused mission at the Reclaimer Derelict crash site on Microtech.
Oh, that's right.
Before we get into the details, it's important to remember these missions, just like the actual crash site itself, are built with modularity to be scaled up and placed on dozens of planets, space stations, or cities in the future. What we're seeing here is the first rendition of a new mission type. We will test it out in 3.19, and it will likely then be applied to other locations in the future after being tuned. The mission itself is still a bit mysterious though. Players are meant to fight for control over terminals for a chance at big credit payouts at this derelict crash site. This is supposed to make use of the AI navigation mesh and nearby comm arrays. These are both a bit cryptic as PvP missions normally don't include AI, and the comm array generally isn't mentioned if it's just being turned off. But it could be nothing. Regardless, I see this being...
I think it's reskinning SPK down at the surface. You turn off the comm array, you don't get crime stat for killing everything.
Again,
like, I
similar
don't think it's
to
going to be
Korea,
that
where
crazy.
an attacking player can trigger a mission...
And it doesn't need to be. That's what people need to understand. It doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be crazy. You just got to bring us together and allow things to happen, you know?
For other players to come oppose them. And if AI are involved, it is also possible this could include Ninetales reinforcements arriving on a dropship to make this a 3-faction fight.
Maybe.
What would make that even better is if criminal players were actually assisted by Ninetales. But Reputation just doesn't quite handle that in the game yet.
Yeah.
Regardless, another mission to play around with is a win, and it's especially encouraging to see the missions team so quickly experimenting with the interesting new locations that have been coming into the game. There's sure to be more info on what this mission will fully include soon, but for 3.19, it'll likely be a single test scenario, much like the river last year. While not the most crucial changes, these all have grander implications in future patches. Building interiors, FPS scanning, new locations, city missions, and the game in general will all make use of these additions. But we'll have to wait to see how much that actually improves the current experience for you. I would say definitely not as much as 3.18 coming soon. But if you'd like to stay up to date on what's going on with the game and maybe join the community to play or chat with us sometime, consider subscribing here and joining the Discord server, which just got a new coat of paint and the ability to customize your chat channels as you please. We've got a lot of friendly people hanging out and tons of people who would be happy to jump in game with you or teach you the ropes if you're new. And if you want to help support my family in running this channel, our live streams, podcasts, and the community, consider joining us on Patreon or here on YouTube for exclusive videos every month. Your support is what makes this possible, and for that we hope you enjoy the extra videos as a thanks. I hope you learned something new and interesting in this video, and I'll catch you in the next.
I did. Yeah. So that was SpaceTomato. Here's the one caveat to this video. Is he's taking the most recent roadmap roundup and going, these are the things that we know are in 3.19. There's another one coming today or tomorrow. Today's Tuesday. So my expectation is to see more cards actually be added to 3.19 as they're figuring out what they're able to pull into 3.18.1, or essentially that's what 3.19 is, right? So the problem is everybody's been working on 3.19 in the 3.19 branch of the game, and they have to bring it into 3.18 without making it unstable, and it will. There will be some instability, I imagine, in the PTU. It's going to be pretty rough for this, but they're trying to figure out what they're able to bring in without causing too many problems. Like something that was expected to be in the game for sure, racing maps in Arena Commander, a lot of Arena Commander changes, right? Those were not in the cards this update. Maybe they will be tomorrow in the next roadmap roundup. So we'll have to see what's going to be added. And there's probably a lot more than just these few things that Tomato talked about that don't seem that exciting, to be honest, right? So 319 has some potential. The mining changes are the ones that I care about the most, though. Let me know what you guys are caring about the most. But again, I'm more caring about what is next in the cards rather than the cards that we have right now, because I really want to see what 319 is going to be overall, you know?